Does Luke want to have lunch with Scott?
Does Luke want to have lunch with Scott?
No, that's not what he wants. Luke doesn't want to have lunch with Scott.
No, that's not what he wants. Luke doesn't want to have lunch with Scott.
What does Luke want?
What does Luke want?
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Luke wants to meet with
Does
Scott.
Luke want to borrow money from Scott?
Does Luke want to borrow money from Scott?
No, Luke doesn't want to borrow money from Scott.
No, Luke doesn't want
What does
to
Luke
borrow
want?
money from Scott. What does Luke want?
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Does Luke want to have a meeting with
Does
Scott?
Luke want to have a meeting with Scott?
Yes, that's correct. Luke wants to meet with Scott, which is the same thing as saying that Luke wants to have a meeting with Scott. To meet with someone means to have a meeting with someone.
Is that correct? Luke wants to meet with Scott, which is the same thing as saying that Luke wants to have a meeting with Scott. To meet with someone means to have a meeting with someone.
Does Luke think the meeting will last all day?
Luke thinks the meeting will last all day.
No, Luke doesn't think the meeting will last all day.
Doesn't think the meeting will
How
last.
long does he think the meeting will last?
How long does he think the meeting will last?
He thinks the meeting will last about 3 hours.
Does he think the meeting will last
Does he think the
about
meeting
3
will
hours?
last more than 4 hours?
Does he think the meeting will last more than 4 hours?
No, he doesn't think the meeting will last more than 4 hours.
No, he doesn't think the meeting will
How
last
long does he
more
think the
than
meeting will
4
last?
hours. How long does he think the meeting will last?
He thinks the meeting will last about 3 hours.
He thinks the meeting will last about 3 hours.
Does Scott have time for meetings this week?
Does Scott have time for a meeting this week?
No, Scott doesn't have time for meetings this week. He's very
No,
busy.
Scott doesn't have time for a meeting.
Is Scott a little busy or very busy this week?
Is Scott a little busy or very busy?
Scott is very busy this week.
Scott is very busy.
Will the meeting between Luke and Scott take place
Will
this
the
week?
meeting between Luke and Scott take place this week?
No, the meeting between Luke and Scott will not take place this
No,
week.
the meeting will take place
When will
this
the meeting
week.
take place?
No, the meeting between Luke and Scott will not take place this week. When
meeting will
the
take place next week.
place? The meeting will take
Is it true
place-
that the meeting will take place next week instead of
Is
this
it
week?
true the meeting will take place this week instead of this week?
Yes, it's true. The meeting will take place next week instead of this week.
Yes, it's true. The meeting will take place this week instead of this week.
Why will the meeting take place next week instead of this week?
Why will the meeting take place this week instead of this week?
Well, the meeting will take place next week instead of this week because Scott is very busy this week.
Well, the meeting will take place this week instead of this week because Scott is very busy this week.
Now, let's help Luke and Scott figure out the best day next week to set up their meeting. You're looking at the schedule.
Now, let's help Luke and Scott figure out the best day to set up the meeting. You're looking at the schedules for Luke and Scott for next week. I'm going to ask questions based on our schedules.
For Luke and Scott for next week. I'm going to ask questions based on their schedules. Will Luke be in the office on Monday?
Will Luke be in the office on Monday?
Yes, he will. Luke will be in the office on
Yes,
Monday.
he will. Luke will be
What
in
about
the
Scott?
office on
Will Scott
Monday.
be in the office on Monday?
What about Scott? Will Scott be in the office on Monday?
No, he won't. Scott won't be in the office on
No, he
Monday.
won't. Scott won't be
Who won't be in the office on Monday?
Who won't be in the office on Monday?
It's Scott. Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
It's Scott. Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
Is it true that Scott will be absent from work on Monday?
Is that true? Is that true? That's after work on Monday.
Yes, that's true. Scott will be absent from work on Monday.
That's it true. True. Work. Look. Oh, after work on Monday.
Can they set up their meeting on Monday?
Can they set up their meeting on Monday?
No, they cannot set up their meeting on
No,
Monday.
they cannot set up their meeting on
Why
Monday.
can't they set up their meeting on
Why
Monday?
can't they set up their meeting on Monday?
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Monday because Scott won't be in the office. He'll be on vacation.
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Monday because Scott won't be in the office. He'll be on vacation.
Will Luke be on vacation next week?
Will Luke be in the office on vacation
No,
next
Luke
week?
won't be on vacation next week.
No, Luke won't be
Who will be on vacation next
Who on vacation next week?
Scott will be on vacation next week.
Scott will.
Will he be on vacation for
next
5
week.
days?
Will he be in the vacation for 5 days?
No, he won't be on vacation for 5 days.
No, he
This is going
won't.
to be a short vacation.
No, he won't be on the vacation for 5 days. This is going to be a short vacation.
How many days will he be on vacation?
How many days will he be in vacation?
He'll be on vacation for 3 days.
He'll be in vacation for 3
Will Scott be in the
days.
office on Monday?
Will he be in the office on Monday?
No, Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
No, Luke won't be in the office on Monday.
Does that mean they can't set up their meeting on Monday?
Does that mean they can't set up their meeting on Monday?
Yes, that's exactly right. That means they can't set up their meeting on Monday.
Yes, that's exactly right. That means they can't set up their meeting on Monday.
What about Tuesday? Can they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
Can they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
No, they still can't set up their meeting on
No,
Tuesday.
they still can't set up their meeting.
Why can't they set up their
Thursday.
meeting on Tuesday?
Why can't they set up the meeting on Thursday? On Tuesday.
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Tuesday because Scott won't be in the office.
Well, they can't set.
Who will be absent from work on Tuesday?
On Tuesday because Scott won't be of us.
It's Scott. Scott will be absent from work on Tuesday.
It's Scott. Scott will
Scott be back
have
on
to work
Wednesday?
on Monday. On Thursday. Scott be back on Wednesday.
No, he won't. Scott won't be back on Wednesday.
No,
When
he
will
won't.
Scott be
Scott will have to work on Monday.
back?
When will Scott be back?
Scott will be back on Thursday.
Scott will back.
Will Scott be absent from work on Thursday?
Scott will ask to work on Monday.
No, Scott won't be absent from work on Thursday. He'll
No.
be in the office.
Scott will have to work on Monday. He'll be on vacation.
All right, so Scott will be back on Thursday. Does that mean they can set up their meeting on
All
Thursday?
right. Could that mean they can set up them on Monday? Can they set up them on Thursday?
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no.
They still can't set up their meeting on Thursday.
Unfortunately, no. He still can set up them on Thursday.
Set up their meeting on Thursday.
Can they set up them on Thursday? Because Scott.
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Thursday because Luke won't be in the office.
Well, they can set up them on Thursday because Luke won't be on fish.
He has a doctor's appointment that day.
He's at the doctor
Who has a
appointment
doctor's
that
appointment
day.
on Thursday?
Yeah. Who has a doctor appointment that?
It's
on
Luke.
Thursday.
Luke has a doctor's appointment on
It's
Thursday.
Luke. Luke has a
Does
doctor
Scott have any
appointment
doctor's appointments next week?
on Thursday. Does he have a doctor appointment next week?
No, Scott doesn't have any doctor's appointments next week.
No. Scott doesn't have any doctor appointment next week.
Tell me again, why can't they set up their meeting on Thursday?
Tell me again. Why can't they start the meeting on Thursday?
They can't set up their meeting on Thursday because Luke has a doctor's appointment that day, so he won't be in the office. Will Luke?
They can't start up the meeting on Thursday because Scott doesn't have a doctor because Luke has a doctor appointment that day, so he can't set up in the office.
Be in the office on Friday?
Will Luke be in the office on Friday?
Yes, he will. Luke will be in the office on
Yes,
Friday.
he will. Luke will be
What
in the
about
office
Scott?
on
Will Scott be in the office on Friday as well?
What about Scott? Was Scott in the Friday
Yes,
as well?
Scott will be in the office on Friday as well.
Yes, Scott
Can they set up their meeting on
also on Friday as well.
Friday?
Can they set up the meeting on Friday?
Yes, they can set up their meeting that day.
Yes, they can set up the meeting that day.
Both Luke and Scott be in the office on Friday?
Both Luke and Scott on the meeting that day. On the office on Monday.
Yes, they will. Both Luke and Scott will be in the office on Friday.
Yes, he will. Both Luke and Scott on Friday as well.
Can they set up their meeting on Friday?
Can they set up the meeting on Friday?
Yes, they can. Both Luke and Scott will be in the office on Friday, so they
Does
can
he-
set up their meeting that day.
Yes, he can. Both Luke and Scott in the office on Friday, so he can set up the meeting that day.